All right, guys. We're going to be starting with Lab 14 here. And let's go ahead and start from the beginning. It's telling us that you've been asked to provide a general security audit for 515 support. First, we'll review and implement aspects of the written security policy. Next, we'll configure both Windows NTFS permissions and Linux standard permissions. We'll use a password cracking utility to audit a user password. And finally, we'll deploy certificates, including an SSL certificate for a website and certificate management with OpenSSL. Okay, this is a pretty involved lab. There's lots of different components here. If you have any questions as we go through this, email info@cyberkrafttraining.com or leave a comment. I'll be happy to answer your questions. And if you want to do anything, you want to dive into more detail, just let me know. Okay, so it gives us the domain objectives that we're going to be looking at. All right, so let's see. Implement security settings required by 515 support written security policy for user management and auditing. So we have to review the following written security requirements. Basically, we're going to be implementing these changes, I think. All right, passwords will be changed every 60 days and may not be changed more frequently than every 1 day. Passwords must be at least 12 characters in length. Passwords must be complexity requirements. Users may not reuse the last 20 passwords. Okay, that's pretty strict. That's even stricter than what you'll see with the federal government. Changing passwords 60 days. I don't think that's a good security practice, in my opinion. I think something a little more reasonable, like once a quarter, maybe once every 6 months, but 60 days, that's a pain in the butt. Anyway. Accounts will be locked out for 10 minutes if an incorrect password is entered more than 3 times. That's going to generate a lot of IT support tickets, especially if someone's coming in early. Fat finger in the keyboard or just, not really paying attention. Local guest user accounts will be disabled. Okay. Servers and workstations will not display the username of the last user to log on. That's a good security policy. Servers and workstations will display the following title message. Warning, authorized use only. Okay, often you want to have some sort of security banner or message when you first log on to basically cover your butt, to show that you're telling your users that they need to follow the security policy. So users can't, go do something on the computer and then later say, oh, well, I didn't know we weren't supposed to do that, and you have a lawsuit on your hands, things like that. So this is usually the message a little more involved, but that's a pretty good setting. Everything here is pretty good except for this 60 days nonsense. And I don't know about not reusing last 20 passwords. That's kind of annoying too. Okay, so we're going to log on to DC1. I've already logged on to DC1. I like to log on to this stuff right away as soon as I get into labs because I don't like to interrupt the flow in between. Okay, now obviously we're using group policy management. So you access this through your server dashboard tools, group policy management. Okay. And I have that open already. Now here you're going to see in your domains corp.515support.com. That's the domain that we have designed for the labs. So if we're going to be doing they have shortcuts here. They have shortcuts for what we need. But we can look down here at group policy objects to find these objects that we need. So let's take a look here. Which one do they want us to configure first? All right. Default domain policy. Okay, so we have to look at the default domain policy. We have this 515 support domain policy, the local admin policy, default domain controllers policy, and then default domain policy. So we can just right click on this and hit edit. Okay. We could also go to action, edit. Those are the same things. So let's go ahead and edit that one. All right, in here we're going to find down here under policies. This is where we're going to go ahead and set this up. Go to policies, should be Windows settings, and then security settings. Okay, let me expand this out. Security settings, and then we should see password settings here. I think there's one more I have to go. Account policies, right? Account policies and then password policy. Okay, so here we go. Password policy. Let's take a look at what we have here. Password history. So we could change this. Remember, they wanted 20 passwords remembered. So we'll apply that. It's going to take a moment. They want 20 passwords. Can't reuse the past 20 passwords. Has to be 12 characters in length. So we're just going to go ahead and adjust these settings here. Okay, minimum password age, or maximum password age. We're going to change that. Right-click properties, change that to 60. And it looks like someone clearly just went in here and adjusted these, to be random values. Have to be 12 characters length. Right now it's at 7. Let's up that to 12. Okay. And modifying these in GPO is a really easy way to do it. I think it's probably the most efficient way. So I think this is a good system. Minimum password age is 1 day. I think that's correct. Passwords, where did it say that? May not be changed more frequently than 1 day. Okay, that's minimum password age, right? So that's good. That prevents users from constantly changing their password. Must meet complexity requirements. It doesn't say anything about that, but that's fine. Store passwords using reversible encryption. Does it say anything about encryption? No. Okay. Pretty good. Let's see. It does ask us for complexity requirements here. So we've done everything there. Now we want to do account lockout policy. Okay. And for that one, they have to be locked out for 10 minutes. So, I've been right-clicking and applying or doing properties. You can also just double-click it. So we're going to hit. You have to check define. If something is not defined, you have to check this to be able to modify the value. Just keep that in mind. This can be a 10-minute lockout. And then we're going to have to change those. Yeah, it's telling us, okay, if you're going to put a lockout, you should adjust the conditions for when the lockout triggers. So I think it said 3 lockout attempts, which is a little strict. I think 5 is more reasonable. Reset account lockout counter after 10 minutes. Yeah, that should be fine. That can often match the duration. And let's see. That should be good. All right, we adjusted those. So all of those are pretty good. Okay, now for the rest of these, we're going to have to go to a different setting. We have to go to Windows settings, security settings, and we have to go to security options, right? Local policies, and security options. Okay, now here's where you'll find a lot of these miscellaneous settings that we're going to be looking for. So a lot of these are going to be in accounts, guest account status, disabled, interactive logon. That's going to help us display that message. It's also going to help us not display the last name. Display user information. No. Do not display last username. Enabled. This one's a little tricky because it can be a double negative. Do not display last username. Let's see. Interactive message text for users attempting log on. Yep. And this is where we'll just copy and paste. Oh yeah, I don't think I can. Yeah, I can't do that. All right, so we're just going to type this in. Okay, so we're giving a warning message to the users. Did that. That's pretty good. And what else are we doing here? Message title for users attempting to log on. All right, so that's where we're finding all those settings. Should be good to go there. Now we're going to be, once we've done that, we've applied all those. Now we have to update our group policy settings. Okay, so an easy way to do that is to open up PowerShell. Just search for PowerShell. Right click on PowerShell and run as administrator. You always want to run it as administrator. Just as a good rule of thumb, if you're, making administrative changes, because it's going to help you bypass any permission problems. And then GP update, group policy update, is the command that you want to use. And if you're using group policy, if you're making a lot of changes with group policy editor, this is a great command to keep in your toolbox. So GP update /force lets you update the policy. Lab tells us to run that command twice just to make sure it goes through. It says it's completed successfully. Let's just run it again just to be sure. Now again, I always invite you to type out the commands. Gives you, believe it or not, just the act of typing it gives you that extra muscle memory. So it really does help. I know you have the quick options here, but I do invite you to type them out. Now we're gonna show the results, okay? Make sure to spell correctly. Results. All right, GP result, it's result singular, /H. So we're going to designate the location. And basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be exporting our results here in a file that we can be reading. So like a reference file. Instead of digging through all the group policy updates manually, we can just output this to a file and then look at that file, understand what we talked about or what we configured. All right, C users administrator /desktop. Make sure to make this case sensitive, and then we're going to GP report .htm. Okay, if it says generate report, we should see a report pop up on the desktop. Now we can open that report, and here what we can see are all the different changes we made to our group policy editor. Makes it into a web viewable file. So if you want, if you have a remote workforce or remote admins, you can, whenever you make group policy updates, you can publish this to like your intranet and then share that with other admins, show what changes were made that day. It can be pretty helpful. If you have some sort of change management process, usually this will be automated. You'll have some sort of automation that will publish this so that everybody's on the same page and they know what changes were made. Okay, so we can see some of the changes. If we go through this, we don't need to go through everything here, but let's see. Here, we can just do a quick search too, and you can search the document. So we can find password related settings, if I spell password correctly. I'm pretty bad at typing things so that they're spelled correctly. So if you have trouble with that, I sympathize with you. That's me too. And here's some of the changes we made. 20 passwords remembered, 60-day age, 12 characters. So we see that those policy updates were published successfully. Now the lab is just going to check that file exists on the desktop, and clearly it does. We can see it. So that's great. All right, everything looks really good. All right, so now we're going to manage Windows permissions using NTFS, New Technology File System. All right, so we've already logged on. We're going to create 2 files in the C drive. So I'm going to create one called sales data. And I'm just right clicking new folder. Okay. And then IT data. Okay, so we have 2 folders there. They exist. We see them. Some of these are a little silly, these scripts, I gotta say. But it's designed to keep you on the right track. Because if you don't put in the right spot, maybe you put in lab files, the other scripts aren't going to work. So they all build on one another. So it does pay to score them, even if they seem pretty silly. Because they just help you. It's another check to make sure you're doing the right thing. So it helps. Okay, help desk ticket forwarded to you states that Bobby should be a member of the sales group, and the sales group needs to modify permission to the sales data folder. Okay, so we're going to go to Server Manager, Active Directory, Tools, Active Directory Users and Computers. Okay, and then let's see, we're going to go to, let's see, Users. Let's go to Bobby. Bobby at 515support.com. Member of 515 support users and local admin. So is he? No, he's not a member of the sales group. So we can add, so we can do sales, check names. So basically what I'm doing here, okay, we see that Bobby's not a member of the sales group. There should be a group called sales. So I'm going to hit add here under member of. Go to sales. Okay, I'm clicking sales, and then I click check names. When I click check names, that sales group pops up. You can tell it pops up because it's underlined now. Okay, so we've searched for a group called sales. And I could search for something like SAL, okay, and I could check names, and sales group would pop up. So it's recognizing the character string that I put in there to identify an existing group. And then once it recognizes that that's the group I'm looking for, it'll put it in to the object. So I'm going to hit OK now. And now Bobby's a member of the sales group. Okay. Now we could do this a different way. We could modify the sales group, and we're going to do that next. So I just wanted to show you how to do it from the user side. So we can do that from the user side. Okay. So now we got to go to the sales group here. The groups here are all listed in our users folder. Okay. A lot of times you'll find the security groups just right off the domain, corp.515support.com. So I just made a test group. It appears here, but here they're in the users folder. It's up to you how you want to organize these, but this is, I could see this giving some people some trouble. So here we have users. Normally you see users here, but here we see security groups also. So this is where we see our sales group, and we saw that Bobby was a member of the sales, the local admin, and the main users. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to double click this sales group. We're going to modify this. We see these members, okay? And then we have that managed by. And we need to make the sales group have modify permissions to the sales data folder. We can do that at the folder level. So let's go ahead and do that. But if you're confused as to why the group was here, that's just in this lab environment, that's how it's set up. So if that's confusing to you, that's okay. Don't worry about that. That's just in this realm of the CompTIA lab. That's what we're seeing. So we're going to go ahead and right click here, properties. Go to security. Okay, and then from here, group or user names, we can edit this. Okay. We can add an administrator here or an owner. Let's see. The sales group has the modify permission. We can add one, type sales, check names, sales, okay? We're gonna hit OK there. And now we have sales, 515 support.sales as a group here. And once we've selected that as a group, we're gonna go ahead and go down here and allow modified permissions, okay? We'll keep the rest of the permissions, you know, read, write, modify, execute. We have read and execute, and now we're allowing modify. So almost full control, essentially. Well, basically full control. We're gonna hit apply there, and that's how we've done this at the permission level, okay? Or we've done this at the folder level, which is how you're gonna be doing it through new technology file system. You know, the controls are done at the folder or the file system or file level. Now, what type of access control method does this demonstrate for you guys? So if you remember, you have to look at your access control methods. Which one would this demonstrate here? Anyone want to take a stab? Yeah, okay, so this is going to be discretionary access control, or DAC, D-A-C, all right? So discretionary access control, or DAC. Okay. Now we can modify this a little bit. Yeah, I just don't like how this is organized. That's all. Okay, but we do. So let's see. Did we do everything? What else do we have to do? Sam has to have explicit deny privileges to the IT data folder. Okay, so let's take a look at Sam. He's a member of the domain users and the sales group. Okay, so I don't know why the lab wants to hate on Sam so much, but they don't want Sam to access this new folder, IT data. So let's go ahead and properties. So at the folder level, we're going to go ahead. We're going to edit this. We're going to add. Let's see, can we check? Can we just add one person? Yeah, we can. Okay. Okay, so we're adding Sam as an object here. 515 support / Sam. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and let's just deny him everything. So what does it say? Explicit deny permission. Okay, that's fine. Yep, if the user or two groups, one is allowed permission, the other is denied the same permission, user deny that permission. Yeah. Basically what that's saying is, even though if Sam is part of like the admin group, okay, and the admin group has full control, full allow permissions on that folder, since we've made this explicit deny rule where we're denying everything, remember explicit deny is deny by default, that deny rule would take precedence because we've created a special rule for Sam. Apparently Sam messed something up in the IT data folder, and we're punishing him, or we're making sure he doesn't do that again, so we're putting this explicit deny permission on this folder itself, okay? So we're modifying this at the folder level just like we did for Bobby and the sales data. Okay, so that's kind of interesting that we had to do that, and then we can score that, and that should work, and we did get it correct. All right, so great. So this part could be a little confusing. Whenever the lab doesn't tell you exactly where to go, you know, the way the lab is organized, that could be very different from what you'll see on the job. So it really should tell you exactly where these objects are. So if you do get a little confused, that's why I do these lab walkthroughs. I can see someone getting confused at this step here, because this one's pretty bare bone. And the way these labs are developed, okay, you can tell, look at the level of detail in the security policy section and then the level of detail in the NTFS Windows permissions section. They're very different. You have two different people writing these, okay? So the labs are kind of a hodgepodge of scenarios linked together. So sometimes they can be very confusing, and you can have a confusing section in an otherwise pretty easy to understand lab. So that's why we do these walkthroughs. Okay, anyway. I think we should be good. I don't know if we're going to be using domain controller 1 anymore. Okay, so now we're going to be doing Linux commands. Actually, we'll probably go to MS1 to do the SSL certificates. But let's go ahead and go to Kali. Still using this old version of Kali, so it's root and then password. Make sure password has a 0 and not an O. And basically, we're going to be doing everything through the terminal. This can be pretty easy, but if you mess up, with the Kali machine, you can't use that type set helper. You can't click the type command. It's not going to work because they didn't script this super well. So what we're going to do is work through we have to navigate. We're going to do this through Linux, okay, through the Linux commands. Okay, so let's see. Are we in the root command? Let's see. Okay, now if you don't know if you're in the root directory, just do pwd. Pwd tells you what your current directory is, and we should be in /root. Okay, so we should do. We should add an account now, Floyd. Now it's going to tell you. Oh yeah, what am I doing? Add user Floyd. Sorry. We're not changing any permissions on folders just yet. Cmod's used to change permissions on certain objects. Add user Floyd. Okay. We're going to create a password for him. We're going to use that same password we use for everything. Retype that. Okay. Now basically we've created the user now called Floyd. We've set his password as the password here. PA $$W0RD. Okay. Full name. It says to enter for all the other options. We can go ahead and do that. That's fine. Yes, the information is correct. Boom. Okay. Now we're going to create a group. Okay. Group add sales. Group add. Can be a little confusing because it's add user and then group add. Just remember that group add, if you're going to add a group, flip-flop from add user. So we create that sales group. It doesn't give us any more prompt for the sales group. So if it just goes right back to the terminal, it's fine. And if you score it with the script, we did it correctly because it scored just right. Okay, so now we're going to create a directory, mkdir. Let me expand this out so you can see this. / what does it want us to? Sales info. Wants us to call this sales info. Okay. And then we're going to create a file. Remember, to create a file, use the touch command. Touch, and then we're going to specify where we want that file. So sales info. And then we're going to specify the file that we want to create. And that file is going to be sales policies. Policies, plural. We'll make sure the text matches the case. Okay. Sales policies.txt. Creating a text file using the touch command in the sales info file. Now the script is going to help ensure that we did that correctly. Okay, and now we're going to make sure that Floyd has permissions to that. So we're going to cown And yeah, C own, not ohm. Change ownership, CH own. -R, putting the -R flag in there. Floyd from the sales group /sales info. What we've done here, -R promotes, changes it to the read command, okay? Or the grants them ownership with that command, that flag, -R. It's not read, it's full ownership. Okay, so now let's see. We should confirm this. Both of the one command, everything that we've done so far should line up. And then let's see. We can go ahead and configure Floyd. Now this is a pretty good, this section is written pretty well. Very self-explanatory, very easy to follow. So we're going to configure Floyd with the read, write, and execute in the sales group with read. We're going to exclude write and execute. And all others with no access to sales info directory. All of its contents by using the cmod change R. Okay. All right, so we're going to go to change ownership or cmodify. We're going to modify using that -R flag. Now, we're going to say U equals RX, RWX. Okay, remember, read, write, and execute, RWX. That's what those stand for. Make sure you have a comma, no space, G equals RX, okay? O RWX /sales info. Okay, so what have we done here? U is going to stand for the user, okay? So let's see. Configure Floyd with RWX. So that's going to be Floyd there. Group. The sales group with R, read, no write, and execute. So read and execute. Okay, and we would just do that with RX. You don't need to put that dash in there. And then all others, read, write, execute. Or no, others are going to be without that. So we put that minus, read, write, execute. Okay. So, and then we specify with the /sales info the directory. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, let me know. But did I messed something up, I think. Let's see. Make sure your spacing's correct. I think there's a space here. Yeah. So there's a space after RWX here. Before sales info. You have to have a space before you specify the directory. And then if we score that, that should be correct there. So we changed those permissions correctly. And this is a pretty straightforward. I like this little section. It's just a review on some of these basic Linux commands that you need to practice with. So it's a pretty good one. And then, yeah, can't really say too much else. I mean, I hope this makes sense what we've done here. We've added Floyd as a user. We created a sales group with group add. We then made a directory called sales info. We made a file in there, a text file. Okay. Yeah, you know, we can, it's pretty easy what we've done here. Let's see. We can go to, let's find our stuff here. Well, we can just do this through the terminal. Let's see. Where are we? We're in root. We could change directory to /sales info. Okay. And then we could do cat sales policy .txt. There's nothing in there because we made the text file. We didn't put anything in there. But we've changed the directory to that sales info. Shows you that that sales info directory exists that we created. And then I'm showing the results, the contents of salespolicy.txt with the cat command, but there's nothing in that text file because it's a blank text file. But yeah, pretty good. All right, so we've done that, created that user, modified the permissions, looks really good. Okay, well, we're going to be doing something else in Kali here. That's great. Well, I'll put up a fresh terminal just to make this easier. Let's see. Again, we're going to make sure we're in the root folder. PWD shows you where your directory is, and we should be in root. Okay. We can also change directory to the root folder. CD/. It's going to change you to the root account. Okay. Or actually, that's going to change me to / root would change us to root. So now, you're back into /root. So if you ever need to, just change directory /root and you'll be back in there. Okay, so now we're going to add user. Wait, no. User add Bobby. Okay, we create Bobby. No, it's add user, right? I get mixed up too sometimes. Let's see. It's as add user. It's group add. Add user. Add user. Bobby. Bobby. Now, Bobby already exists. Okay. So why is it asking us to add Bobby? Even says add user command. All right. Bobby already exists here. So he probably already has that password. We don't have to worry about that. All right. So now we're going to extract a file. rocku.txt.gz. Okay. So now we're going to be... Bobby is always the screw up in these scenarios. So he's going to be opening up some sort of malware, I'm sure. We're going to do that with the gunzip command. gunzip/share/wordlist/rocku.txt. This might not be a malware. This might just be a list of passwords. Oh, no. txt.gz. It's going to be .gz. That's why we're using the gunzip command. .gz. Okay. No such file or directory exists. Let me verify that I typed this correctly. rocku.txt.gz. I think I typed that correctly. User share wordlist/rocku.txt. Yeah, this is a 601 lab. Yep. This is identity access management. Huh. That should work, but it's not working. Let's take a look in the directory there. Okay, there. So we're navigating to the directory. We see rocku.txt. Why is this not working? Yeah. Yeah, that's good advice. Huh. I think it's already extracted because now it's a TXT file. So honestly, I think we should be okay. All right, let's just try and work with it. I think there's some things, I think this one's not written very well because I think this was already extracted and Bobby was already created in this version. So they probably saved the wrong image. Okay. All right, so yeah, this was already extracted. So if you're going through a slab, skip the gunzip number 4. Now this would be if this was still in a archive format, but it isn't. It's, when we went through the list command, the ls command, we saw that rocku.txt was already extracted. So we don't need to do that. Now we have a list of passwords, essentially. That's what we're doing here. Okay. It's a pretty long list of passwords. Okay. Okay, so now it's going to ask us to, I think, edit something. Now, we're using Vim to edit this, just a utility within Kali Linux, within most Ubuntu or Debian distributions. What does it want us to do? Okay, we got to insert this at the top of the file. I wish I read that a little earlier. It doesn't necessarily have to be at the top. It's just going to speed things up if it's at the top. Okay, and you could also, anyway. So we're going to go click here. We're going to hit insert. We're going to insert Bobby's password. I'm just going to delete this other password. We don't need it. So this is the password for Bobby. Even though we didn't create Bobby, Bobby was already created. I'm sure that he is created using a default password. I would stake my entire career on that with these labs. That's the only password they ever use. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. Yeah, we're adding this password to the list because believe the user has an easily guessed password. So basically right now in this scenario, it's not explaining it very well, is we're acting as a hacker. We're going to be using a word list to help us crack a password, okay? And this is a list of words that we have. This is like a dictionary or a rainbow table we might have that we're using to crack the passwords of, say we got a list of hashes. We're trying to crack those password hashes. So we've found those password hashes, and now we're trying to match those hashes to plain text passwords that we have. So we're going to go ahead and let's see. We've inserted that. We're going to go ahead and escape. Okay. And then we're going to do :WQ. WQ is going to save and quit Vim. And there. So we've saved, we've quit Vim, and now rocku.txt should be modified. Should have that Bobby's password in there. Yeah, great question. This is a virtual machine through CompTIA. When you sign up for any of my courses, you get access to the lab environment with CompTIA, and this is one of those labs. There's 32 labs for Security Plus. We're doing lab 14 here. So this is all browser based. You don't have to install anything. Though also when you sign up for a course, I always also teach how to make your own lab environment like this. If you're interested in doing that, go to cyberkrafttraining.com. I got a home lab course. It's a few hours long, teaches you how to make your own lab environment like this one, linked with a domain controller 1, MS1, DC1, all that. So, yeah, great question. You can easily set, well, it's not super easy. It takes several hours, but you can set up a lab environment like this on your own and practice these things. Okay. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're using the unshadow command. Okay. A password is known to be shadowed when it's encrypted, when it's secure, and we're going to unshadow that using the unshadow command. So we're going to make it, we're going to decrypt it. So we're going to do in the /etc password file, that's where you'll find your passwords, /etc/shadow. crack this file. Okay. And we're using John the Ripper to do this. John the Ripper is one of these utilities within Kali Linux. We can open John the Ripper like this, but we're just doing it through the terminal commands, okay? So the syntax for John the Ripper is John, double dash. We're going to specify a word list to use. And then we're going to hit equal / the user share / word list. We're just specifying the directory where that word list is. Word list / rocku.txt. Now we're specifying that rocku.txt word list that we had already, that we've modified. Crack this file. And we're using that word list to target this file called crack this file. Okay. So we've detected a hash. I'm going to read this from top bottom, this output, so you can understand it. Warning, detected hash type SHA-512 crypt. Okay, so this is a secure hashing algorithm, 512 bits there, but the string is also recognized as HMAC SHA-256. Okay, so it's probably a SHA secure hashing algorithm 256-bit hash, okay? HMAC hash. So it uses the SHA-256 option. So John the Ripper is trying to identify what hashes it's looking at. It thinks it's looking at a SHA-256 hash, okay? Loads 2 password hashes with 2 different salts. Remember, salt is an extra variable that you add to increase the complexity of a hash. Okay, and it's loading the word list that we have. And what it finds here is it finds a password for root and a password for Floyd that we created earlier. Remember, we created that Floyd account. So I guess Bobby was not created with that password. Wow. I'm going to have to retire. I staked my career on that. But we did create another user earlier, which, you know, I don't think this these 2 labs were written by 2 different people, probably, these 2 sections. But, you know, remember, we created Floyd with that password account. So since we inputted that password as a known plain text value, basically what John the Ripper is doing is it's taking a hash of that word password, okay, SHA-256 hash, and then it's examining the hashes that are found in the shadow folder, okay, in the crack this file, and it's seeing if there's any matches. And if there are, then it knows that that hash represents that word password. I hope that makes sense. We go over this a lot more I go over this a lot more in my password cracking video. But you know what we've done here, John the Ripper successfully identified that Floyd's password is this password. So now we have the plain text value for Floyd's password. Okay, that password wasn't being stored in a text file, you know, out of the blue. It was being stored as a password hash for added security, a SHA-256 hash to be precise. Okay, so great. And then let's see. That should be correct. Oh no, we got to create this file. Let's see. So we got to do John -- show crack this file password audit.txt. Now, what we're doing here is we're creating a file with our results, okay? And then we can show that file password audit.txt. I'm showing the results of that file by just using the cat command. And here we see root. The root password is password, and Floyd's password is password. Okay. So now if we score this, we can't score that again, but we have it corrected now because this is the password audit.txt that we had to create in this step 9. All right, so great. So we've used John the Ripper successfully. You can also access John the Ripper through, through here, through your main drop down. And here you see a lot of different help commands for John the Ripper. It's always double dash with John the Ripper, but this is how, if you want to learn more about John the Ripper, you can look through there. Pretty useful password cracking utility. All right, so great. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and create a server certificate. Man, this is a long lab. This could probably be broken out into 3 labs, honestly. So we're going to go to MS1. And these aren't really linked together very well. All right, so now we're going to be opening to create certificates, SSL certificates, TLS certificates. We're going to be opening Internet Information Services, IIS console. Okay. IIS Manager. Okay, so from here, we're going to go ahead and do 515 Support Administrator. Server Certificates. Double click this. We go to Sites. Let's see what we're trying to do here. Okay, from here, from server certificates, we can go ahead and right click, create domain certificate. So we go ahead, create domain certificate. It's going to take a moment, then it's going to open up a wizard. It is working. It's just taking a little longer. Sometimes I wonder too if I did this, but it really just takes that long. All right, so we're going to do updates. I'm just going to go ahead and type these in. When you're not typing in commands, you're just typing in, the organization name, the organizational unit. I don't think that really helps you learn the lab any better. But when you have to type in commands in PowerShell or Terminal or Command Prompt, that's when I think it's important for you to type these in manually. But if you're doing this, just use the helps. It's fine. Okay, state, province, say it's in Wyoming. Okay, so we're going to select our certificate authority, the CA. That's going to be 515support.ca. This is an internal CA that we maintain, 515 support CA. And we're going to type this as a friendly name. The friendly name is going to be a name that we can easily identify. Okay. So what we've done here is we're creating a domain certificate. Now we're pinging the CA. We're asking them to, we're asking the CA to validate and create this domain certificate. It says after a few seconds, might want to say a few minutes. Okay, it didn't take that long this time. All right, so we're going to go ahead and right click on this. We're right click on default website. Okay, so what we've done, we've created a certificate. Now we're going to be adding that certificate to our website here. All right, we're going to go ahead and right click this, edit bindings. Okay, or you can go, you click on it, go to the right actions, edit bindings. Okay, now we have HTTP port 80. I believe we're going to be removing that. We're going to go ahead and add one for 443. Try not to look on the right side. We're going to have the host name here. We type this in, updates@core.515support.com. Make that HTTPS. We're going to select the certificate. So we're forcing a secure connection using HTTPS. Now to do that, it's going to operate over port 443. Remember, HTTPS operates over port 443. And we have to select a certificate. You need a SSL or TLS certificate. Remember, we're really using TLS here to do this. Okay. I know it says SSL, but It's just because this is an older version of Server Manager. Right now, SSL is deprecated. We're using TLS. So we'll create that, and that should work. Site binding. Let's see if we did that correct. Yep. And we'll remove the HTTP binding. Okay. And then we're going to close this, and we should be in set. Now let's go ahead and open up Internet Explorer. Still using Internet Explorer in this lab. And we're going to navigate to the updates website. It's going to give us a warning about secure connection. It's because this is a self-signed certificate. We're signing this using our internal certificate authority. So it's not, the certificate's not located in this browser's root certificate store, which is what the browser uses to recognize a secure certificate. And it does successfully navigate to the website, and we can see with this lock icon that we are connecting through an HTTPS connection. Now we can view that certificate here, and we can see that the certificate is issued by 515 support CA, okay? And it's valid from today because we created it today until 2025. So this is a certificate we just made. It's a SHA-256 certificate, uses SHA-256 RSA or Revis Shamir Ottoman encryption. And it was created at 9:29 a.m. or it was valid. Actually, it's interesting. It's valid 10 minutes before when we created it, which is pretty interesting. So all sorts of information you can see about the certificate. None of this is, they don't tell you to do this here. It just says, if you've loaded the website, you've done it correctly, which we did. Okay. Okay, so now we're going back to Kali. I'm surprised this is still going. This is one of the longest labs in the whole thing. Okay, so now we're going to go back to Kali. Let me minimize our old terminal window. Opening a new terminal. Make sure we're in the root folder. Yep, we're in the root. If you open up a new terminal, you're going to be in the root folder. So don't have to keep checking it. But it's good practice to practice these commands. Now we're going to create a directory, make directory, and then we're going to call that keys. Okay, and then, see, we've made that directory keys. We can see it here in the root directory. We have a directory called keys. And then we can do change directory to keys. What did I do? You don't need the / cd keys. Okay, now we're going to be using terminal commands. Oh, so we're doing the same thing, but we're doing it in Linux. Okay, great. So this makes sense. Okay, so now we're using the OpenSSL command. OpenSSL command, OpenSSL, gen RSA. Output, remember RSA, Rivis Samir Adelman. So we'll be generating SSL certificate using that certificate or that encryption algorithm. Okay, and we're going to specify the output. What are we naming these certificates? It's going to be corp.515support.com.key, and then we're going to be .key, and then we're going to be specifying the length of the certificate as 2048. Generates an RSA private key, and it did that successfully. We can confirm that with the script. Now we can extract that, not subtract that. We're going to extract that using OpenSSL, RSA, input corp.515 support.com.key. And then we got to make that output PU out, no, PUB out. Dash out corp 515support.com_public.key. So we've created a private key, and now we're creating a public key. So we have a private and public key pair. I mistyped something. Let's see. corp.515support.com.key. corp.515support.com public key. Unable to load private key. So it should be something here that I messed up. Open SSL RSA input. Maybe I misspelled the private key somehow. Oh yeah, I put it as 515. I put it as 5151. Okay, so what I need to do here is modify, which is fine. I'm going to modify this. Wait, wouldn't that? Oh, it's just looking for any key file. That's interesting. It's not checking the case because that should have said that I did it incorrectly. So I just got to change this to 5151 support. So we're changing the name of the tech support. But that's okay. So now it should work here. Writing RSA key. So this I named as 5151support.com. So I had to specify that that was the input here. I could generate a new private key, but I don't want to do that. I'm just going to specify it like this. Now it's writing the RSA key. Oh, it's done. It's done already. So good. And now we can just do ls in the keys folder. And we can see that we have a private key and a public key. Looks great. And we can display the public key. corp.515support.com _public.key. No. Again, this is 5151 support. This is the next evolution of 515 support. If you thought 515 support was good, 5151 support is even better. It's nearly 10 times better. Okay, so there's the public key that we see there. Good. And it's going to confirm that because it's just looking for a key file. And now we're going to be generating a CSR, certificate signing request. Okay. Open SSL REQ request -new -key corp.5151support.com .key -output corp.5151 support.com .csr. CSR stands for certificate signing request. This is a request sent to a certificate authority to validate a certificate. Okay. You're about to be asked to enter information that will be incorporated into your certificate request. Okay. So now we're going to be creating, we're going to be inputting this information that's set up in our request here. Okay, and then it's going to ask us to do admin at, we're going to do admin at 5151support.com, the next evolution of tech support. And then please enter the following extra attributes, challenge password. We can just hit enter. Optional company name, we can hit enter. Okay. Now we have a CSR, and we should be able to ls see that CSR. So we have that CSR. Now we can send that CSR if we want off to a certificate authority to validate our certificates here if we really wanted to. But we don't need to do that. That's the end of the lab. All right, so let's go ahead and do our questions. Now, you guys have any other questions before we get into these? Great questions today so far. I appreciate it. On the YouTube and in the Discord. Okay. Which of the following answers best describes the effect of the explicit denied permission set for SAMs in the IT data folder? Wow, it's going. This lab is so involved. I could see you easily just not remembering these. Okay, so which of the following answers best describes the effect? Remember, we created an explicit deny rule just for SAM. We're hating on SAM in the IT data folder. All users except SAM are granted access to IT data. SAM cannot get access to IT data. Any ideas? Yeah, SAM cannot get access to IT data even with membership of another group or access. Remember, the deny rules always override the allow rules. So that's why that's correct. All right, which of the following latest commands is used to configure permissions? Well, you can do it in a couple of different ways, but chmod is probably what they're looking for. But you can do it through. I don't like that question. Not just because it's not correct, but I don't think that's an accurate way of describing that. All right, because you should be able to do it through either of those, chmod or chown. All right. Anyway, which of the following answers best describes the purpose of the certificate you configure for the Windows-based web server? Certificate proves the identity of the website. The certificate proves the identity of the user accessing the site. Certificate proves the identity of the web's client or the web's, and the certificate proves the identity of the Active Directory domain. All right, what do you guys think the answer is here? A, B, C, or D? This will be A, B, C, or D. We have 2 minutes. We got to do it. A? Yeah. So the identity of the website is linked to that certificate. So we can know as a user that that website is secure, and we can establish a secure connection using that certificate and the associated certificate authority. This is a form of public key infrastructure. If you think about it that way. A lot of people get tripped up on public key infrastructure. Basically, the way the web works is a larger scaled version of public key infrastructure. Okay, great job. All right, so that was really a doozy of a lab, so I appreciate you guys for hanging in here. And yeah, if you have any questions, email info@cyberkrafttraining.com. And thanks so much for joining in.